every board game begins with a spark of inspiration and a blank sheet of paper. To better understand how ideas transform into playable experiences, I sat down with game designers from CGE to explore their creative journeys. There are no strict formulas here. Each process is as unique as the games themselves. So in this first episode of Making Prototypes, we welcome Mín and Elwen, the designers of Lost Ruins of Arnak, as well as Uhlík, the designer of Under Falling Skies, to talk about how they approach prototypes and making games. When you have an idea for a game, what is the first thing you do?
When we have an idea for a game, we first discuss it. I think this is the advantage we have, that we just design together. So we spend a lot of time just discussing ideas and new concepts.
But then what we want to do next is like very quickly, ideally, we just scribble stuff on a piece of paper, but just really basic ones like cards, maybe some map. And we don't spend too much time on it, but we really want to know whether the idea will work. Because very often it happens that in your head it works, but then when you try to play it, it may work, but it's not fun, or it just doesn't work. So we try to save time that way. So we kind of quickly grab a pen and
But it's
paper.
very fast prototyping.
Very fast too. We usually create like a very few cards, maybe just for 2 players, and maybe just, just 1-2 cards, something very quick.
Usually when I'm starting some new game, it takes me quite a long time before I start some actual physical prototype. I guess I'm just lazy to start really working on it.
Is it laziness, or you don't know how to start, or
That's a good question, and I think it's also it changes with time, because at the start I was very inexperienced, and I was able to find some mistakes in the design only when trying the game. And with more experience, I think that you're more often able to figure out what's wrong even before playing the game, or before creating the prototype.
Yeah.
But what I usually do is that I start with just some piece of paper, something like that, and just try to build the game on that piece of paper. So you don't even need the full game. You just need some a very easy proof of concept, the simplest or the smallest part of the game that you want to test, and just so you're able to play a few turns, because very often you're just playing just a few turns anyway before you throw the prototype away and just need to create a new one. So that would be actually my advice for other designers as well, especially some new designers, not to spend too much time with their prototypes, especially in the early phases.
And then when the idea works, we usually go to the next stage, which is making it slightly more beautiful, creating a few more rounds, seeing whether the idea still survives.
Yeah, creating few components, a few more that we can play longer. It takes a long time till we can actually finalize the game, and when we design prototypes, because first we just try to get through a round and just to see and feel if it has the feel we want from the game, if that's what we envision for the game. And very often it does not, so we kind of tweak and change things till we feel confident, okay, this is something, and then we kind of slowly expand it, and it takes weeks and months usually before we are able to finalize a game of our prototype.
It's also a good thing to say is about the theme. We usually start with an idea that already has something inside, so it really helps us to come up with new cards, maybe, because when you already know what it's going to be about, the effects just come to you. So that's how we do it. But at the same time, in the very early stages, we don't really care about that much. The theme there is just,
It can be tweaked if we need it,
exactly.
Right?
So we just, in the first prototype, we just see whether the mechanic is fun, whether there are interesting decisions, whether the players are actually, engaged. And we try to eliminate fiddliness, even though that's maybe for a later stage as well.
We do prototype a lot on the table, so we actually do print cards, cut them, and play like that, because we feel, and this may be specific for us, but we just really like to see how it feels when you play the game, how fast are the turns, because sometimes when we do it just on the computer, quite often we're off. Like we feel like when we are prototyping on a table with real components, it gives us much more feedback.
You see it right away whether it's fiddling or not. For example, on Tabletop Simulator, it's very difficult for me personally to say whether it's fiddly or not, because I feel it's always fiddly.
What's interesting that people often ask designers what they come up with first, whether it's a theme or mechanisms.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting with me, since I'm quite a graphic-oriented person, then sometimes it happens to me that I actually start with the idea of the table presence of the game. And I mean, you need to have some big idea of the theme or what the game should be about, but still the table presence is there very early in the stage when I work on some game.
Like when you think about the theme, or even before that, like you think of an image of a game on the table, and then like,
it's more like using some unusual materials or doing some interesting stuff with the cardboard that haven't been done before, or even using cards in some interesting ways. I mean, that is already close to the mechanisms.
yeah.
Sometimes about the theme, like how you can capture this theme so even on the table it looks like it should look, like things like that.
This is a beautiful means drawing of the original like research track for Arnak. You can already see like tablets and arrowheads and jewels here and different steps. I like the stick figure.
Yeah, I really wanted to have it all illustrated and telling a story, but there was no space. So
So this became this.
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
So in the very first phase, all the components and everything is just scribbles on a paper. We even keep like all these papers that we use for other prototypes. We have heaps of these cards, for example, cut it already. So we keep them and then we use it from the other side for the fast scribbles, to be able just really quickly do something like this. That's just super fast, just something with a pencil. And from there, we then eventually start generating cards. Like eventually we want to move from just scribbling on the paper to creating like Excel tables. And from those tables, we are using software like Namdeck or Dexterous, which we like lately. That will help us to much faster prototype and actually create the cards. So we don't need to create all the cards when we do any change there. We just change it in the table, and then the program generates.
It's really useful when you change visuals of one resource. You can also see that we often use, like, for the small changes like numbers, the change, we use stickers very often.
Yeah.
That's useful.
Usually we have a board full of stickers, and only when the stickers are, there's so many of them that you can't see.
Print a new version.
Yeah, but otherwise it's a real archaeology where sometimes you want to redo stuff, you kind of like revert back version by just peeling stuff off and stuff. So that happens too. So we also use a bunch of like, not just stickers, we have like a huge shelf. We just brought a little tiny part. We have all these components that we have at home. We have full shelf, like, I don't know, maybe almost 10 times this number. We just brought a part of it. And it's, we've been collecting it. This is our dragon hoard over years. And it's always useful because when you're designing something, it's great to be able to grab coins or cubes or something generic like that. You don't need to spend too much on it. You can really work with anything. It's just something we enjoy to bring a little bit more theme into the game.
I see many different things that are very different to each other. It's like as if a different person made those.
I mean, to be honest, those are quite some quite old prototypes, because especially recently I learned to like throw away things instead of just storing them, so this is more towards how I was doing it like in the past, when I was definitely overdoing stuff, like spending a lot of time finding the right images and things like that. But What I like about it is that, especially in the past, I was using just what I had in hand by hand. I mean, I used some Lego pieces if I want some miniatures or things like that. Um, these days, what I like doing every time in Essenspiel, I'm visiting this one. I mean, it's my most favorite booth. Is this? I think it's called Spielmaterial.
Yeah.
That booth that has all those pieces, miniatures, dice, and tokens, and whatever. And I like spend somebody there every time I visit Spiel. So I think that back at home I have like almost their full like
Shop.
everything they offer,
Yeah.
their full shop at home. So right now I have like any component I can just dream of. But to be honest, like the one who appreciate them the most is my young son, who's playing with them. Because I found out that every time I start working on some new game, then I need some different kind of pieces anyway. So you don't want to use that what's been used all over the place. So.
Yeah, you want to custom make it for the
Kind of.
specific game.
Yeah.
One thing that I found super useful, and it could be a case for us because we're designing together, but after each session and discussion of designing, to write down some kind of like notes, some conclusions, because we always feel like we'll remember, but we never do, right? We always forget stuff.
Yeah, so especially if you have like a dedicated time for designing like once a week, when you get back to it, often you're like, so we wanted to change things which were, and then you really don't remember, because especially in our case, we iterate so much, we have so many versions that sometimes we're like confusing the versions together. So having a few concrete steps that you will want to do next time you have time for designing is very helpful.
My favorite part is like when I came with this brilliant idea. I was like, wow, we should try this. And means like, yeah, we tried it like half a year ago.
Yeah.
And like then we go through the notes. I was like, yeah, we already did that. I totally forgot.
So it's like a diary of iterations, basically.
Yes, because you can then just go back and see which ideas you already tried and why they didn't work, which is very helpful.
Or you can go back and maybe they didn't work at that time, but now because
Yes.
paradigm changed and the rules changed, now they can work again. So that can be useful as well.
That's true.
Would you like to talk about this though? Because
Yeah, this is my quite old game. It's called Spring on a String. And it was about like threading the shoelaces through the game board like that.
Nice.
As you can see, this is something that was pretty difficult to prototype.
Yeah.
So here, like every iteration was very painful to actually like change the distribution of colors on the board or the position of those flowers and things like that. So actually, my wife was doing those, and I brought them mostly because I want to show you how like every prototypes and every game is very different, and sometimes the prototyping process will look much different than let's say when you're doing just the card games and things like that.
I would love to play this game actually. Is there a stage where you think now it's time to make the prototype prettier, or it doesn't really?
That's a later stage. So this is like all of this that we do up to this stage is basically just for our own prototyping. That's like we don't really need the prototype to be that pretty, but then when we want to test it with other people, we try to find images, we try to make it, you know, a little look a little.
Yeah, so this is basically where you see like this is the line. This is where when we invite other people to test with us, we want them to be able to enjoy the prototype at least to the degree it's possible.
So what we do is like we try to find images online, and we kind of sometimes generate AI images, sometimes we just download some things. It's not to be sold, so it's like, you know, use whatever we find, and we try to put together something that will communicate or convey the feeling of the theme as well, so we kind of can see the first impression of the people as a whole package together with the theme and the mechanics involved. So that's what we like to do. Generating the cards for this stage is very useful.
Like you mean the icons and everything that kind of like,
Yes.
yeah, you don't need to kind of like go into your graphic kind of like software and change every single card. We always do it through an Excel table, and I think that's much faster. I think that was a lifesaver. I think when we started designing Arnak, like the first prototypes, we were just changing every change. I needed to go to graphic design, kind of like prototype file and change it there. And then like, yeah, this is not the way. And then we found Nandek and later Dexter's, and those really helped to speed up the process.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially publishers or people often say that it's not important how the prototype looks because it will be changed anyway. I would disagree slightly, because I think that it's still very important to get like people's imagination running and to make them comfortable playing the game, make it smooth and things like that. And often those, even if you put some placeholder illustrations there or whatever, then it still pretty much helps to like imagine to make you imagine how the game could look when it will be done. So I still spend some time doing that. What's even more important is that it needs to have some graphical design in that, like to have some distinct icons, have them on the right places on cards and on the board and whatever. Because what I found out with different publishers is that maybe more often than people think, the way how you like make the layout of various things like the cards, cardboard and whatever, it very often don't change that much from the prototype. Yeah, of course, the publisher will make it prettier, but in some way, the way how the designer like starts working with it, it keeps some of those concepts and some of those.
Yeah.
Like once the publisher accept the prototype, like they will change graphics, like UI, everything. So it doesn't make sense to focus too much on making it super pretty and beautiful, because it's not the final graphics. They will have professionals to do it then, and which is great. I mean, like this is, we already have here, like when we brought prototype of Arnak, they looked very different. And then we started to work on it. So this is like in one of the phases when we were working on the board, and it was amazing just to see how like our dream came true, basically, just to working with artists and how they were making the prototype more and more beautiful with every step. So you can already see like here we were so happy, and then still it improved so much till the final version.
Is it something you enjoy, the prototyping in general, like as a thing?
I do enjoy talking about it. There are some parts that are more work, for sure. And it's like sitting down at the Excel table and counting the numbers, because we do have the discussion, which is the fun part, and there we decide, okay, these resources are going to be spent here, and this is like the flow, the economics of the game, and kind of dreaming that up. That's fun for me. But then when I have to sit down and really, change every card, and that's not that much fun. Just
the
just crunching the numbers.
It is work. So to come up with a new concept that sounds interesting and innovative, that's fun and it's fast, but it's like 5% of the work, I feel like, because then you need to make it work. You need to create the prototype, and it takes a lot of iteration. And I feel like it's all about perseverance. Like you need to keep going, and sometimes it's hard because it may not work.
We do make a lot of iterations. When we don't like a certain part of the design, we just redo every component and then try again. So that can take time. And I think at this stage it's important also to say that here other people, the playtesters, come into the process, and that's so important because they can offer a very new and fresh view of the project, of the game, and they will tell you whether they enjoy the game and what parts they enjoy, and you really need to listen to them. And I think what's important, and what often people may be doing wrong, is you don't argue with those people, you just listen. And when you listen, you can hear what they really feel about the game. So you don't need to defend the project, even though they may be wrong, like objectively about certain parts, they may misunderstand certain parts. Important thing is not to argue with them. It is much better to just listen to them and maybe then explain a few things after they tell you their view of the game.
Because when they don't like something, they may not even realize what is it exactly, but they will help you to see some underlying problem there is there. So they may suggest already how to fix it. Those advices may not be always the best
They
for
may
the
be
game.
off the mark, but it's important to listen to the reason behind it.
Yeah.
Because then they can pinpoint some underlying issues within the design.
And testers, those people are our heroes because they are
Yeah.
playing a game that's not finished. Obviously, there are things that are still broken. It's not pretty. It's kind of like, and they are dedicating their time to just play it with us. So, like, big part of any success are just these people that are willing to sacrifice their time and energy to play this with us. We're so grateful to
They
them.
are our heroes. And what I think is also like really important, it is really awesome to have testers that are like always happy about the design. But it's sometimes more useful to us as designers to have people who are really critical, They don't like stuff and for good reasons.
Yeah.
And that really helps because if they are really honest about it, we can find mistakes or kind of catch certain issues in the design.